A senior man arrived at the airport early for his flight, just like he always did. Same routine, same carry-on, same steps he had followed for years, and nothing felt different. But this time, something quietly went wrong. He was stopped at security for something small. His bag took longer than expected to clear, and by the time he reached his gate, boarding had already moved ahead without him. He didn't break any rules. He simply didn't know what had changed. Because airports today are not the same as they used to be. There are new systems, subtle rule shifts, and small details that most travelers never notice until they cause a delay. And for seniors, those small details don't stay small. They turn into confusion, extra waiting, and unnecessary stress. So before your next flight, here are 17 airport tips seniors should know, the ones that quietly make all the difference. 17. The rule that quietly changes for medical equipment. Carry-on limits feel strict. One bag, one personal item. And most travelers follow that without question. But medical equipment operates under a different set of expectations. Devices like CPAP machines or portable oxygen concentrators are generally treated as necessary items, not optional baggage. Trying to force them into your existing luggage only makes things harder. It adds weight, creates confusion during screening, and increases the chance of being stopped. Carrying them separately aligns with how airlines and security systems are designed to handle medical needs. According to FAA safety guidance, essential medical devices are recognized differently from regular baggage because they are required for passenger well-being. When you treat medical equipment the way the system expects it to be treated, everything becomes smoother, from security to boarding. 16. The simple phrase that slows the entire security line. Security checkpoints are designed for flow, not comfort. Trays move fast, instructions come quickly, and people behind you create a constant sense of pressure. Many seniors instinctively try to keep up, which is exactly when small mistakes happen. Misplaced documents, rushed movements, unnecessary stress. What most people don't realize is that you are not required to match that pace. You can pause at any point and clearly state that you need a moment to proceed safely. That one sentence immediately changes how officers interact with you because the system is built to adapt when assistance is requested. According to TSA's own support framework, passengers can request additional time or modified screening through programs like TSA Cares, which allow a slower and more guided process. The moment you stop reacting to the crowd and start controlling your pace, the entire checkpoint experience becomes manageable instead of overwhelming. There's another part of the airport where nothing looks dangerous, but your balance is tested more than anywhere else. 15. The spot where balance fails most often. Most travelers expect the hardest part of the airport to be long walks or crowded terminals, but the highest risk zone is much closer to the plane. The jet bridge, that short walkway leading into the aircraft, combines multiple physical adjustments within a few steps. Slight slopes, uneven flooring, shifting lighting, and constant movement from other passengers all come together in one place. What makes this moment more difficult is subtle pressure. People behind you continue walking, and that creates a natural urge to move faster than your body is ready for. That small rush is where balance breaks down. Holding your pace, using available support, and stepping deliberately through this section reduces that risk significantly. Because in this space, you're dealing with changing incline, narrow walking path, visual transition from open terminal to enclosed space. It looks simple, but this is where small missteps happen quietly and quickly. 14. The type of help that changes based on when you ask. Two travelers can request the same assistance and still have completely different experiences. The deciding factor is not what they ask for. It's when they ask for it. When assistance is scheduled in advance, it becomes part of the airport's operational planning. Staff are assigned, timing is structured, and your movement through the airport is expected. When the same request is made at the airport, it enters a live queue. That means waiting, uncertainty, and depending on availability. This is where many seniors feel unnecessary fatigue, not because help isn't available, but because it wasn't planned. Aviation accessibility guidelines consistently recommend requesting assistance at least 48 to 72 hours before travel so services can be coordinated properly. Planning ahead doesn't just save time, it moves you into a completely different system that is already prepared for you. Some changes are visible, others are happening quietly, without any announcement at all. 13. The camera that replaces your boarding pass. At certain gates, the moment you step forward to board, your identity is no longer checked the way it used to be. Instead of scanning your boarding pass, a camera captures your face and matches it to your travel records. For many passengers, this happens so smoothly they don't even notice it. But when you're unaware of it, it can feel confusing or unexpected. This is part of the growing use of biometric boarding systems across airports, where facial recognition replaces manual verification. Programs like those implemented by U.S. Customs and Border Protection are expanding this process to speed up boarding and reduce congestion. Understanding this system removes uncertainty, because instead of wondering what just happened, you recognize the process and move forward with confidence. 12. The quiet space. Most travelers walk right past. Airports are built to keep people moving. Constant announcements, bright lighting, crowded walkways. Over time, that environment becomes mentally exhausting, especially during long travel days. What many travelers don't realize is that some airports now include quiet rooms or sensory spaces specifically designed to reduce that overload. These spaces are intentionally different from the rest of the terminal. They offer lower lighting, reduced noise, fewer people, and yet most passengers walk right past them because they're not heavily advertised. For seniors, stepping into one of these spaces for even a few minutes can completely reset energy levels and reduce stress before the next stage of travel. Many airports have introduced these areas as part of passenger wellness improvements to support comfort and accessibility. It's one of the few places in the airport where everything slows down, if you know where to look. And sometimes, the thing that slows you down isn't big at all. It's something small that the system just can't read clearly. 11. The tiny items that slow down your entire screening. Delays at security are often blamed on large bags or obvious items, but in many cases, the real cause is something much smaller. Compact objects like hearing aid batteries, medical accessories, or small electronics can appear unclear on scanning systems, especially when they're packed tightly with other items. When the system can't easily identify something, it pauses the process for a closer look. That doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It simply means more time is needed to verify the contents. The issue isn't the item itself, it's how visible and identifiable it is inside your bag. Keeping these items in an accessible, slightly separated section helps reduce that friction. Because when the system sees clearly, you move through clearly. 10. The code you never see, but staff always do. The moment you request help while booking, something invisible gets attached to your reservation, and it quietly changes how the entire airport treats you. Airlines assign internal service codes that define your level of assistance, whether it's mobility support, extra time, or guided movement through checkpoints. These codes are not visible to you, but they are visible to every staff member handling your journey. That creates a completely different experience compared to asking for help at the airport itself. When the request is already in the system, staff expect you. When it isn't, you become part of a waiting queue. That one difference shifts you from a planned passenger to a reactive situation. Those internal codes typically represent levels like WCHR, Basic Mobility Help, WCHS, Stairs Assistance, WCHC, Full Assistance. Setting it up early doesn't just make things easier. It changes how the system prepares for you before you even arrive. 9. The part of security where you don't have to stand. Long periods of standing at security can quietly drain your energy before your trip even begins. Lines move slowly, pauses are unpredictable, and many seniors feel they have no choice but to stay on their feet the entire time. What's rarely explained is that standing through the entire process is not always required. During certain parts of screening, especially extended checks or pat-downs, you can request to be seated. This option exists specifically to reduce physical strain and prevent fatigue from building too early in your journey. TSA procedures allow alternative screening approaches when needed, including seated options for passengers who require it, as outlined in their accessibility guidelines. Using that option isn't about slowing things down. It's about protecting your energy for the rest of your trip. Up to this point, most of these changes affect how you move through the airport, but the next ones start affecting your timing, your energy, and even your decisions without you realizing it. 8. The timing problem. Most seniors don't notice. Crossing time zones doesn't just change your schedule, it quietly shifts how your body responds to medication. Many seniors take prescriptions at specific hours, and when flights move across time zones, those timings can become misaligned without immediate warning. What makes this tricky is that the change isn't obvious during travel. You're focused on boarding, moving, and settling in, while your internal schedule is already shifting. That's where doses can be taken too early, too late, or too close together. For medications that depend on consistent timing, even a small shift can affect how your body responds. Planning ahead with your doctor or adjusting your schedule gradually before travel helps prevent that confusion. Because once your timing stays consistent, your entire trip feels more stable and predictable. 7. The air inside the plane that drains you faster. The discomfort many seniors feel after a flight isn't just from sitting too long, it starts with the air itself. Aircraft cabins operate at extremely low humidity levels, often drier than most indoor environments. That dryness affects hydration, circulation, and overall energy more than people expect. Over time, this can lead to increased fatigue, lightheadedness, dry throat, or irritation. And the effects build gradually, not instantly. By the time you feel it, your body is already catching up. Drinking water consistently during the flight and avoiding long gaps without hydration helps reduce that impact. The Federal Aviation Administration notes that cabin conditions can significantly affect passenger comfort, particularly over longer flights. Managing hydration early keeps your energy from dropping later. Some changes don't happen in the air. They happen the moment you choose where to sit. 6. The seat choice that changes your entire experience. Seat selection is often treated as a comfort decision, but for seniors, it directly affects how the entire airport process feels. A seat closer to the front allows faster exit after landing, reducing standing time in aisles and helping you move ahead of crowds. On the other hand, certain boarding systems allow passengers seated toward the rear to board earlier, giving them easier access to overhead space and less pressure while settling in. That creates a trade-off most travelers don't think about: faster boarding versus faster exit. Choosing based on your priority, whether it's minimizing waiting or minimizing movement, changes how smooth your experience feels from start to finish. Because your seat doesn't just affect your flight, it shapes how you move through the airport before and after it. 5. The one conversation that changes how crew treat you. The first few minutes after you sit down set the tone for the entire flight, and most passengers stay silent during that time. What many seniors don't realize is that a simple, calm conversation with a flight attendant early on changes how the crew responds to you for the rest of the journey. Mentioning something small, needing water at a certain time, planning to stand briefly, or simply asking for a quick check-in, creates awareness. Once that awareness is there, you're no longer just another passenger in the cabin. Flight attendants manage dozens of people at once, so early communication helps them prioritize quietly without drawing attention. That small moment at the beginning turns into consistent support throughout the flight. Some systems don't depend on what you say. They depend on how airports are physically designed. 4. Why walking feels more exhausting than it used to. Airports today are not just busier. They are physically larger. Longer corridors, expanded terminals, and more connections mean significantly more walking than in the past. What makes this more challenging is the type of flooring used in most terminals. These surfaces are designed for durability and easy maintenance, not comfort. That means harder materials that reflect energy back into your joints with every step. Over long distances, that impact builds up faster than most people expect. Taking short breaks, adjusting pace, and planning movement instead of pushing through continuously makes a noticeable difference. Because the environment isn't designed for comfort, you have to create that comfort yourself within it. 3. The option that lets someone walk with you. Traveling alone can feel manageable until something becomes confusing or overwhelming. What many seniors don't realize is that in certain situations, airlines can issue gate passes that allow a family member or companion to accompany you through security and all the way to your gate. This isn't widely advertised, and it depends on the airline and circumstances, but it exists specifically to support passengers who may need guidance. Instead of navigating everything alone, you have someone physically with you through the most complex parts of the airport. Requesting this ahead of time increases the chances of approval and makes coordination easier. Because sometimes the biggest support isn't a system, it's a person beside you. And sometimes the difference between a stressful trip and a smooth one comes down to something even simpler than that. 2. The habit that prevents end-of-trip exhaustion. The moment a flight lands, most passengers rush to stand up, collect their belongings, and move as quickly as possible. That instinct creates pressure, especially in tight spaces where movement is limited and balance is important. For seniors, staying seated for a few extra minutes while the initial rush clears changes everything. It removes crowd pressure, reduces the risk of losing balance, and allows you to move at your own pace once the aisle opens up. That small delay prevents the most chaotic part of the flight from becoming overwhelming. Instead of reacting to movement around you, you move when the environment is calm and predictable. 1. The system that was never designed for comfort. Airports are built around one primary goal: moving large numbers of people efficiently. Every process, from security lines to boarding procedures, is designed to maintain flow, not comfort. That's why things often feel rushed, unclear, or physically demanding. For senior travelers, this can feel frustrating or even discouraging. But understanding this changes how you approach the entire experience. The system isn't working against you. It simply isn't built around individual pace. Once you recognize that, you stop trying to match the system and start adjusting it to fit you. Because the moment you do that, everything begins to feel more manageable.